obviously got all the way to the championship game. Could you just talk about the progress they've made this season? What they were able to accomplish this year.
Yeah, absolutely. They had a tremendous season all the way to the American Mid-East Conference Finals, where they lost a heartbreaker 1-0 to Roberts Wesleyan. That's just the nature of soccer. Sometimes they were very close. If they would have won that game and maybe been fortunate enough to win the next stage, they would have been in the national tournament. But as it was, 12-5-1 overall. This was after being 8-9 last year, which was a huge turnaround from just 2 years ago, 2009, being 1-15-1. So those players and coaches have a lot to be proud of, and you got to expect that there's nothing but success in the future.
Sticking with men's soccer, huge part has been with head coach Jeroen Walster, understandably AMC Coach of the Year this year. How much has Walster, by recruiting a lot of these players overseas, really helped this team?
I mean, it really shows in the record. I mean, their best player, Alex Sala, first team, all conference. They were able to add Wendelin Hobel this year from Austria, just like Sala. And in the last few years, we've seen Francis Tabby from Ghana, Matt Anekiera go from Canada, and of course, there's the players like Shane Lucas from down the road in West Homestead, or your Breck Wasdens, or your Anthony Russos, who are local. But when you put it all together, the local flavor plus, I think, the international really takes it to the other level, with the skill guys up front in particular.
Well, the men's soccer team also looks like it's going to have a lot of potential next year, and going forward here you have freshmen like you mentioned, Wendelin Hobel, but also Lucas Silva really got off to a great start this year. Cooled down a little towards the end, but you're going to have a lot of the top players coming back. Alex Sala, Matt Anekiera coming back, and of course Mitchell Kelman, the goalkeeper, who really filled in well this year. Can you talk about the potential this team has moving forward with all the young talent they've been able to collect?
Well, the guys just have to be greedy, I think. I think they have to. They had a tremendous year this year, and they have to take it upon themselves to take it a step further. You can't forget that they are losing some seniors: Shane Lucas, Andres Escobar, Anthony Russo, Zeke O'Donnell, guys like that. And with the recruiting base that we talked about before, hopefully they can fill in there. But there's certainly some work to be done. But if they can continue what they did the last couple of years, there should be some good things to come.
You're listening here to A to Z Sports, and we have Sports Information Director of Athletic Communications, whatever your title that you choose, Kevin Taylor, in. Let's switch gears to the women's soccer team. The women's soccer team, the record might not have shown it, but again, a playoff berth, and in the second year of Mark Platts, it has to be a step in the right direction.
Oh, absolutely. Judging by their record, if you just looked at that and judged them on that, you would think that they had a bad year, but they play in a tough conference, and let's not forget, with the likes of Houghton, Damon, which was a huge improvement this year, Damon teams in the past, and then Roberts Wesleyan, also traditionally strong. They played each of those teams twice as opposed to once each in years past, so they took 2 losses to all those teams, and when you add it all up, when you're at the end of the year, you're on the negative side of the wins and losses, but not a bad effort. There was some good learning, I think, that Coach Platts would tell you. For what was, again, a very young Pioneer team, Lauren Evans, a senior, was the only starter that was not a freshman or a sophomore. So they'll have 10 of those 11 starters back as either sophomores or juniors next year. They've already added a couple freshmen, so I think they're on the cusp last year. And going into next year, Coach Platts' 3rd year, you got to think that they're going to be on the upward swing.
Do you think the women's soccer team is going to be able to, go into those conference games, and how they ended this year? They ended making the playoffs, so I think they are, probably gained a lot of confidence on how they played this year. Do you think they're going to be able to go and, just start off the year with, a lot of confidence, and that they're going to be able to get back to the playoffs and have another solid season next year?
Sure, they should have a ton of confidence and experience. Experience is such a huge thing in soccer because until you're in one of those games that's a one-goal game, or maybe 1-0 or 0-0 or 1-1 late, you can play a pretty good game for 70, 75, 80 minutes, and if inexperience shows itself, you end up losing 2-1 or 3-2 in overtime. And I think that with experience, we can turn those 2-1 losses into ties or wins.
Both the women's soccer team and the men's soccer team both had very interesting dilemmas in goal this year. With the injury to Zeke O'Donnell, him and, as we discussed, Mitchell Kelman, both, went back and forth. And the same thing was perhaps even more prominent was with the women's team when you have Anna Shaw and you had Liz Velez playing goaltender. What kind of a, how does that kind of a thing work when, you're bouncing back and forth? And does anything like that perhaps even affect team, I don't know if you can say it, but team chemistry kind of a thing?
Well, from what I've noticed, I think that all 4 goalies across the men's and women's teams that you've mentioned brought a little bit of different things to the table. The couple of the sophomores this year, Anna Shaw on the women's side, Mitchell Kelman on the men's side, just show a lot of promise for the future and did some really good things young in their careers. And Liz Velez on the women's side, Zeke O'Donnell on the men's side, you can't discount the experience factor that I talked about before, and that just really weighs heavily in favor for them getting minutes. So hopefully the coaches were satisfied with the way they handled that situation. I think they did well with it.
The cross-country team played a couple, ran a couple meets so far this year. They have, more towards further closer to springtime. How does their, I don't know if it's come out yet or not, but what would you look for, in the next part of their schedule when the team gets back together?
Well, actually, cross-country is a sport that only competes in the fall, so with the conclusion of their fall schedule, that's it for the 11-12 school year. The conference meet, or the unaffiliated conference meet, was November 5th in St. Louis, something they had to go to because the AMC did not have enough teams to merit a national bid, so they went there trying to get some individuals or teams advanced to the national tournament. Point Park went into that with a couple of individuals with a chance to make some noise nationally. Actually, a couple of their better ones were on the shelf with injuries. Andrew Rowland on the men's side, Goodsell on the women's, but not a bad effort for the Pioneers in cross country this year. Some really good performances by some younger runners on the women's side, Carrie Rouse, Lindsay Palmer, Katie Johnston, and on the men's side, Dylan Grunn has sort of emerged as probably next year's best runner, and guys like Connor Mulvaney are some promising younger runners for the future.
You mentioned the injury to Ashley Goodsell. Lindsay Dill also had a very injury-filled year. With those two, perhaps, do you think that something could be made, going next year, especially on the women's side, with the two-pronged attack?
Well, if Ashley Goodsell, I haven't heard yet if she was going to be back, but she was just a pure talent that could run all day.
Well, hypothetically, she does.
Yeah, exactly. And Lindsay Dill, solid as ever for her first 3 years, but caught the injury bug this year, and I really haven't heard if she's going to be back next year. I'm sure they would welcome her back if so.
Well, Zach, I don't mean to be stealing your thunder here, but
I thought we would talk golf first, but we haven't talked golf yet, because we do have Taylor coming in.
Well, since
you don't want to do a specific somebody on me, do you? That's a glow joke. Okay,
since I stole your thunder, since I'm going to steal your thunder, Zach.
It's okay. First Amendment.
We don't have a lot of time left, so Point Park volleyball team, historic season. What do you make of it?
Exactly that. Historic is a great adjective to use. 36-6, the most wins ever. 6 losses, the fewest losses ever. American Mid-East Conference Championship. First national tournament appearance for the volleyball program, and actually for any women's sport here at Point Park. They broke a lot of new ground with some tremendous individual talents that came together and achieved a lot as a team. And with the exception of Rachel Stadina and Cassandra Maxwell, lost to graduation this year, they'll have everybody back next year, and they'll try to break through even further.
In golf, quickly, golf, both men's and women's had a very, very good year. Caroline Collins specifically on the women's side, and on the men's side, you look at, unfortunately, seniors, so unfortunately it's a little bit older on the men's side, but it seemed like the men also had a very good season. The women had their first win ever, so definitely a good season for them, and definitely some men got into the winner's circle as well, so a very good season for both the women's and men's golf team.
Yeah, absolutely. They did really well in the fall season. It gets to be a tough go of it. As you're playing October golf, it's not really a true test of it, but when the weather breaks here in the spring, I'm sure they'll be making some more noise out there on the links. They got some good individual talents on both teams who are capable of winning any tournament that they go out in, like your Austin Elders and your Caroline Collins. And as a team, there's never been deeper talent among both teams, and there's like some jockeying for position to even get into these tournaments to be in the starting lineup, so that only helps your team performance.
Well, we're running out of time here, but the men's and women's basketball season have gotten off to quick starts. They both have gotten off to pretty good starts. I've been covering the men's basketball team for the Globe a little bit. They won their first game of the season, then lost 3 straight, then ended up winning 5 straight, so they're starting to get a little back on track. But, what do you make of, what's going on so far for both teams, quickly?
Well, with men's basketball, 7-5, 2-2 versus NCAA D2 competition, they're leading the nation in scoring. That 1-3 start that you mentioned, it took them a little bit to get their footing in Coach Rager's system, where you just got to run, and go. They got a lot of players who are being relied on for the first time to produce. Your Robbie Edringtons and guys like that, and Jimmy Taylor was new to the system, and after those first 4 games they've gotten it, and they're just rolling right now. And women's basketball, 5-4 under Tony Grenick, first-year coach, at Carnegie Mellon Saturday, just up the road. Their schedule's been really bunched. They started their year with 7 games in 12 days, and then the Boston to Ohio road trip most recently, and their schedule's going to be spaced out here coming up, and I think they'll have a better shot to run their record up a little bit above the 5-4 that it's at right now.
Lastly, going out of the Point Park sports realm, quickly, we haven't talked about it for over a year, but Dwight Howard has been in the NBA news a lot lately. Is he going to LA? Is he going to the New Jersey Nets? Is he staying with Orlando? Very quickly, what do you think?
I don't know. I think a guy like that could probably make his own suitors, or have a lot to say about where he goes. But such a tremendous talent, I think that anybody would love to have him. But quite honestly, with all the great Pioneer news going on, I haven't been able to keep up that much on the NBA, so I apologize.
Hey, you're allowed. You're allowed. But unfortunately, well, we wanted to have you on mainly because you started the show for us legitimately on our first episode of the first semester, and also in a closer town, the first episode of this semester. So, it was great that you could come in at the last one to kind of cap it off. So, of course, thanks for coming on. You're always welcome anytime. We always appreciate the shout-outs you give us on Twitter, and the hat tips, as Coach Brown from the volleyball team likes to call them. So, really great to have you on. Thanks so much for coming.
Yes, thanks also, Kevin, for me.
Yeah, I got to thank you guys too. It's great to be on, and anytime you need me to talk about the Pioneers, I'm willing to do so. You guys do such a great job of promoting us around campus. Thank you.
All right, we are up against a break again, a stone cold break. When we come back, the NFL picks of the week here on the Voice of Point Park, 670 AM WPPJ Radio.